Hello, just a quick check-in with Prep-tober, this being October the 19th. Yes, the 19th. And actually, for 2 weeks out, I'm actually doing okay. I wrestled it back from just sort of a dead end to more of a kind of a young YA kind of adventure story with young Jesse finding the cell phone in the middle of the woods and finding a game on it and a manual, which seems to be fiction because it's all about flying and mind control. But as he kind of goes through the game, he finds out that it's actually real. And in the game has this princess in the middle of it who has been kidnapped. And it turns out, it's like, I think she's been kidnapped here. I think she's been hidden somewhere here. And he's going to go through the book and investigate, including the store where this phone seems to be originated, because when he opens up to look at the battery, indeed it's got a little sticker from listing the store in it. So he traces the store, and it's an odd store, and it's got this very kind of kooky, kind of eccentric owner, Miss Arabesque. And it doesn't think of anything other than when he says he sees a phone that looks slightly like it, she's like, no, that's not for sale. And quickly he is shoved out of the store. It's like, okay, what's that about? So I'm glad he's really, because he was tempted to actually talk about the phone that he had, but it's like, no. And at the same time, he's like, yeah, he's been investigating, and there's like these odd things that are happening around his town now that he's starting to notice because he sees them in his game as well. Maybe symbols, maybe a new factory, in the thing. And indeed he investigates it at night, and he finds that there's some odd creatures that seem to be trapped in this place and are being exploited or drained or enslaved. And there's men who are seem to be patrolling the city, and he starts worrying because they seem to be honing in on him. That are showing up. They show up at his school. They show up at his house, or around in his neighborhood. They seem to be centering in on him, and indeed he ends up pulling the battery from the phone at a certain point because it's like, oh crap, I think they're coming for me. And indeed he looks in the manual, and there's a thing about how to repel stuff like this, and it seems to work. And a part of it's like tinfoil and copper wire and stuff like that, but he does it, and it seems to work. And he's like, so he in the game he finally does find the princess, and it's like, wow, she's like this beautiful, very kind of femmy girl who he's like she can totally talk to, because have this thing, and he's adventures, and then kind of like, it's very vivid. It's really immersive game. But the villain ends up grabbing her back, and it's revealed like, oh, the villain in the game, it's a woman who looks very much like Miss Arabesque. And it's like, is being held at the Arabesque's at her place, at her store? Or is it like, where's Miss Arabesque live? And it turns out she lives slightly out of town, in this kind of this large mansion, which seems very rich for someone thing. He goes and investigates, sneaks around, can't find anything, thinks like, maybe I'm kind of going nuts. Arabesque and the guys who had been kind of searching around town suddenly arrive. He hides, and he watches them open a dimensional portal thingy, go in, and then come out again and wander off. And he goes in, and what does he find? He finds the princess, except it is the princess, but it's not. She is not a femmy kind of, good looking. She's like this girl with green hair and baggy clothes, who, when he kind of makes kind of like, oh, the princess, she just punches him. And yeah, so it turns out she is very kind of not that kind of young woman, and is very snarky and is very independent, and they're going to go from there, from adventures. But that's how much I've got so far. So yeah, it seems to be I'm kind of generating story. I'll kind of try and get out the story, and then try and kind of hone down what I'm expecting to do with this story. I got the thing of him being bullied and isolated, and maybe the princess being kind of very shy and introverted herself, but also interested in talking to him, where she is, where the actual girl is very confident and just like, I hacked this stupid game and hid clues in it, and it's like dumbass stuff. And holy crap, you can actually do in the manual, because like, you're from this plane, you guys are all losers here. So she's very kind of dismissive of him, but it's like she's all he's got. And it's like, why didn't you alert the authorities? Because like, there's this whole thing of like, oh, get the king and the king's guard, but he rejected that because it's a game and he wanted to do it himself. He didn't want to like call for the authorities, and he just didn't do anything. So um yeah, so that's what I've got so far. I think it's actually pretty good. Pretty well. No, I don't know if it's pretty good, but there's a little story here, and it's hopefully a little fun little novella story. It's all I'm going for. It's basically rescue the princess, or the prince, find the girl, and then them both saving themselves, and him developing talents and powers and maybe abilities that he didn't know he had, and kind of opening up new worlds for him, which would be kind of cool. So, and not romance with the girl. Maybe a good friendship, maybe grudging respect on the side of the girl, and hey, look, I can actually talk to girls and to other people, and be myself. So maybe have a little bit of that at the beginning, of him not failing to connect with his own peers, and girls and boys in his own school, and by the end, oh, he can actually do that, and he can kind of hold up for himself. Maybe at the beginning, him failing miserably and getting bullied, and all that sort of stuff. So that's a story I have so far. We'll see how it goes. But that's it for Preptober for October the 19th.